Happy Thursday, everyone. Thank you for sticking around as we were working through a couple technical issues. Basically, Wendy's computer went rogue on her, and Windows decided to do an update. Because it knows that she had a live queued up, and so it decided to make her life hell. So in any case, it's a great lesson for us job seekers. We got to roll with the punches, adapt quickly. Things don't always go according to plan. So very symbolic of what we're going to be talking about tonight. So welcome to Office Hours. I'm Kamara Toffolo, resume writer, LinkedIn consultant, and job search strategist who helps working professionals dare to do work differently and land great fitting gigs. And I'm so excited to have Wendy Dailey with us. Wendy is a talent acquisition strategist at Sanford Health, which is one of the largest healthcare networks in the US. She has 20 years of HR experience, and she co-hosts the HR Social Half Hour podcast, which has aired 160 episodes in 3 years. So if I did my math correctly, that's like literally one episode a week. So I was actually episode 160, which aired today, and I'm super excited that we can turn the tables and welcome Wendy to Office Hours. Hello, Wendy. How are you doing?
I am well. Thank you so much for having me. Technical difficulties. Hey, that's our world, and roll with it. We just roll with it. So
you betcha.
I'm super pumped to be here, and I'm so excited that the timing worked out, that your show came out today. We're doing this today. I love the double punch that we can get to our listeners.
Me too. I think it's so fitting, and I'm so excited to have you here. And I would love to hear from our audience too, because Office Hours really, and just like HR Social Hour, you guys have quite an international audience, as does Office Hours. So where is everybody tuning in from? Please tell us in the chat on YouTube or in the comments on LinkedIn. And Sweta, hello, Sweta from Canada. Hello, my friend. Christina, hello. Christina says, you got this. Hello, Wendy. Hi, Christina. Thank you so much. The weigh-in says they're saying, hi, Wendy. They're tuning in from Maryland. We've got Rajesh from North Carolina. Christina is from Korea, from Seoul.
Oh, wow.
Hager from Egypt. So
this is awesome. Hello, everybody.
Yes. Hello. Yeah, this is so great. So was there anything that I missed in the intro, in your bio?
No, I think you covered it. We've got, I've really kind of loving doing the podcast and doing this stuff, starting to speak more. And I'm so hoping that we can be out and about this year and get a chance to connect in person.
Absolutely.
I am vaccinated, and I am like 3 days from, full effectiveness. So
yeah. And feeling good?
I had zero side effects.
Fantastic.
I am one of those fortunate people. I get no side effects from the flu shot or any of those vaccinations. So I am that person that I get them all, because I'm just going to help with that herd immunity.
Doing your part. So that is awesome. That's so great. So let's jump into it. We have a lot of questions. We even have a pre-submitted question from earlier about Twitter, which is where we met, but we'll get into that later on. But let's talk about talent acquisition versus recruiting. What's the diff?
Good question. Talent acquisition, does it just sound more important? Maybe? No. I think for me, talent acquisition covers that whole piece from we're not just looking to fill a job, but we're trying to get that whole candidate experience out there. And we're looking at each one of those pieces, thinking about the sourcing piece, thinking about connecting with hiring managers, and even, what are we putting out on our websites? What are we putting out there to connect people, to bring them in?
Right.
It was interesting. I was prepping for another session earlier today, and we were talking about onboarding, and it's like, onboarding starts so much earlier than we think it does. Because you're really getting people from that candidate experience. and they're going to remember how you treated them and as a candidate, even if they accept the job, they're going to use some of that as, painting their picture, painting of how they're going to be with you in the organization, what it's going to be like to be an employee. So you really have to think about that all the way through from the moment, you said, I work for a large healthcare organization. So anytime you see our name, that's a candidate experience that could be. Anytime you go into one of our clinics, that could be a candidate experience. And so we, you always have to be recruiting, and you have to help people understand that it's not just a transactional thing. And we think of recruiting as transactional. So it's that talent acquisition. We're bringing people in. I'm not a huge fan of the word talent, I'll be honest. But
how about the acquisition part?
The acquisition, I mean, we're so strange with words. We can go down the fight of should it be human resources? What are we talking about here? But bringing people in, I like the broader term of the talent acquisition of that whole experience from start and not even to finish. There is no finish. We should constantly be recruiting and keeping our people in, and how do we keep them excited about working for us, and what's next? Where do you want to go next? Where do you want to take your career next? We actually just started about a year ago or so a career counseling area of our HR department.
Oh, really?
So people who, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, or I kind of know what I want to be. So how do I get there? And we have people to help you do that, because that's not a recruiter's job.
Right.
That's not our job in talent acquisition, to help you figure out what you want to be when you grow up. We're here to fill a role. We're here to help fill the jobs that already exist, not to create something brand new for somebody because they have these cool skills. But that's where our talent development team can come into play.
Great. So as a job seeker, if I'm seeing someone at your company and I want to apply to your company, if I see someone's role on LinkedIn, if I'm doing my research and I see someone's role as talent acquisition strategist in your case, or manager or specialist, and then I see recruiter, should I be concerned? Should I be reaching out in a different way depending on the person's title?
I don't think so, because there's so many different titles. I mean, Katrina Kibben, job titles are made up.
Right.
And depending on where you work, I mean, there's such a vast difference of what manager means, even.
Right.
Across the board, you can't just see manager on an application and go, oh, well, I know what you've done. Even though we do that, that's the big secret. We look at those titles, especially if you have tons and tons of applicants. You're trying to get through them fast, so you might just look at titles. And we know they're all made up. We know that, if you saw talent advisor on my LinkedIn profile, you're not going to know what that means. So
right.
I do tend to put other things on there. I think my first true quote recruiter role was employment relations or something weird like that.
Employment relations.
Yeah. And it was for a large organization, and that's what they had decided, they were going to call us. And I'm just like, I don't know.
Got it.
Recruiting. I was a recruiter. That's what I did. So, trying to help people navigate that. And I think, honestly, we do fall down on that job of taking that shortcut of looking, what was your job title, rather than looking in and what were the job duties. And that's a volume problem, quite honestly. And there's some laziness in there too. Let's be honest.
Yeah, let's be real. Definitely some laziness. So that's great. We have some more people sending greetings our way. We've got Akathame, Akathame LLC saying hi, Wendy. We got Jason from Connecticut. We've got Jane from Chicago. We've got Derek from great. Hello, Jane. We've got Derek from Atlanta. We've got Murat from Turkey, and someone from New Jersey. So very global audience. Yes. And also everybody who's tuning in, please do make sure, if you have questions for Wendy, to ask them in the chat on YouTube, ask them in the comments on LinkedIn, and please give us some love with a reaction or a like on YouTube. We'd really appreciate that. Yeah. let's talk about like actually catching the attention in a good way of of people who are in talent acquisition or recruiting. What have you seen done really well where people have caught, say, your attention?
It's having a plan, knowing what you're coming into. We all can spot those generic job or cover letters, the generic, hey, I want to connect with you, and I'm guilty of that. We're all guilty of that. But
Sure.
if you're looking for a job, if you're looking to make that true connection, making that extra effort to reach out, figuring out who do I need to talk to, taking that extra time, we can tell if you've taken time to fill out that job profile, to fill out, taking the time to fill out LinkedIn, especially if you have that option to apply with LinkedIn. Be sure you've filled out your LinkedIn profile.
Right.
That's one of my favorites. You click on it and like, oh, you have your name. I don't have time for
right.
But it's really those people that take that extra effort, because and you want to give them an extra shot. You want to give them the people that are like, yeah, I want to at least talk to you. I want to go a little bit extra for you. I've almost always done that high volume recruiting. And so it is really that churn and burn, trying to get through and try to find the right people. And when you have 25 people who meet the minimum qualifications for a job, you can't call them all.
Right.
You can. It doesn't make sense to call all of them and to set up interviews with hiring managers, because I know that's one of those things that people get frustrated with. But we're trying to find that right person. And so that somebody who takes that extra effort to read through, they know the job description, they know something about what we're doing. Maybe they have a connection who can give them that inside effort. I do that so many times for people, to make that connection, to say, hey, this person is looking for this. They're also looking for this. And even if it's a 2-sentence introduction on LinkedIn, I'll go that extra mile for somebody, because I know that just me saying, hey, I know this person, I may not be best friends with them. I'm not going to vouch that they're awesome, but they're pretty cool. They're doing some good stuff. At least check them out. And that'll, helps elevate people a little bit more there.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's great when we can do like even just a little like connection, like, hey, I know you, maybe you guys should meet.
Well, and that's, I think, one of the things that I love about what we're doing on the social hour is just making those connections. We were, when we started the podcast, I told John, I'm like, I don't want another HR podcast. If you want to talk about FMLA and ACA and, rules and all of that, I'm out. Yeah. But if we can talk about connections and connect people together, and we've had so many opportunities where we've connected people together, and you see, they're often, suddenly they're doing great stuff together. We're like, oh, yay, we had a hand in that.
Yeah, it's fun to be a matchmaker. It's so fun. That's one thing I really love about your podcast. And by the way, guys, make sure to check it out. Listen to my episode first.
Yes.
Plug for me. Anyway, but what I really love about your podcast is that you ask who people should be following. I love that. I love that. And so I had mentioned Rona Pierce, who was also a guest on Office Hours too. And she told me that she already got a couple connection requests from that. Love it.
I love it. It's so much fun to watch, and it comes around too. I've had so many opportunities that, I've met somebody from, so I'll pick on Vadim Lieberman. I met him through being on the social hour because we ended up at a conference together. And then he invited me to, submit some writing to ERE. And now I'm writing for people in Australia. I'm like,
wow.
Right. I'm just like, really? Okay. You want, okay. All right. Sure.
That is cool.
It's just cool to watch how far that reach has gone, because we can kind of, you can deconstruct it to see how you got there. And it's so much fun to think that, a meeting at a conference in New York has led to me writing for people in Australia.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's awesome. I love that. I love that. So speaking of like connecting, reaching out, so obviously you don't really appreciate getting generic messages from job seekers. Who does? But what would you say are kind of like the ingredients of a really good networking message from a job seeker?
Really having a purpose. Why are you connecting with me? And I'm one of those, if you send me a LinkedIn invite, chances are I'm going to accept it. Because we all do that. Like, well, you forget, sometimes you forget to send that extra note, and sometimes you're just, oh, I was on my phone and it actually sent. Okay.
Oops.
Sorry. But, if you are looking for a job, if you're trying to make that connection with me because you want a job at Sanford or some other place that I might know, give me a reason to follow up with you. Say, I saw that this job was posted. Can you connect me with so-and-so? Or I have this type of experience. Can you, help me do this or that? It's, the ones that are like, will you take a look at my profile and let me know if you have anything for me? And we have 1,700 jobs open right now. No.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, I'm not going to do that.
1,700 jobs? Wow.
Yeah. And we're nationwide. So
yeah,
we have jobs across the nation. So
yeah,
we have a lot of jobs, and it's healthcare. So
yeah. Wow.
There's lots of opportunity. But again, that's not a recruiter's job. It's not
right.
talent acquisition's job to take a look at your resume and say, here's what you might be good at. There are some companies that are kind of doing, I'm calling it the Disney Princess test, where you go to their website and you kind of say, oh, I like this or I like that. And it takes you through and says, hey, well, you might be good you might enjoy these jobs. Here's, 17 jobs that we have that you might be interested in. Trying to kind of help them narrow it down.
Yeah.
And that's some of the stuff that we're working on in my department is how can we help you as a job seeker better find that job? Because again, I'm not trained to do that, but I can help you once you decide.
I'm really glad you guys are doing that, first of all. And I'm glad that you brought it up too, because like having a target is everything when it comes to your job search, don't you find? Otherwise, that's when you get bombarded with people who are applying who aren't qualified, because they're just like shooting in the dark, hoping you might
sticks, hoping something.
Yeah.
And I've been there too. I've been in that situation where
Sure.
she's like, I'm just going to flood and see what happens, because we've all been there. I mean, I've been through 2 recessions. I've been laid off. I've had sucky jobs, and I just need out. I just need to find something else. So I get it. I do. And I've also been in that situation where I'm like, I don't know what I want to do.
Yep.
I really don't know what I want to do. Somebody just say, hey, you'd be good at this. But again, you got to find the right person to do that for you. That's a career coach. That's, right. Even maybe somebody like you, Kamara, where you're looking at resumes and talking through it. And, okay, well, you could apply for these types of jobs. On the other side of that, when you're on the corporate side, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm just going to say you're interested in these. And so part of it too is, again, selfish on our part. We don't want to have to look through 30 job applications to fill this one role. We want to help get you to the job that you would really be good at, that you would really be interested in, to help you thrive. Because that's how you're going to be a good employee for us, is if you're in the right spot the first time and not jumping around from department to department trying to figure out where you want to go. Sometimes you have to do that, especially, your dream department isn't open, so you take something else, get your foot in the door. That's fine too. But be honest with people when you're coming in. Most hiring managers are going to be okay with you saying, hey, I just need my foot in the door here. I want to work for you for a year, and then I want to move into this other area. So having that transparency and understanding who you are and what you're willing to do as a candidate, as an employee. again, most hiring managers are cool with that, especially the larger the organization. They just want to be successful.
Right.
They want you to be successful. So if they can help you do that, they're gonna.
I'm really glad. Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned that, because I think a lot of job seekers, when they're feeling down and out, job searching is hard. Yeah, and when they're very stressful, especially now. And so when they're feeling low, it can feel like the world's against them and therefore recruiters are against them. But in actuality, you guys want the best for them. Otherwise, you're creating more work for yourself, aren't you?
You are. Oh, I used to joke with some of my hiring managers, I'm lazy. I don't want to fill this job again in 6 months.
Yeah,
Let's
right.
find the right person the first time. Yeah. Let's do it right now. Let's take that extra time and find that right person. If this isn't the right person, that's fine. Let's go back. Let's look at the posting. Let's look at the job description. Let's figure out what you really need. So often we've all been there where it's just like, okay, I want someone just like the person that left. And that's how job descriptions got to the way they are. We know that. We know there's not a lot of science behind years of experience and education and all of that. It's not. It's like, oh, well, that person who just left. And we want to pay them this amount, so we need to have this amount of experience coming in. I mean, we're going into so many societal things where it comes to how we compensate people and all of that. And we're not going to get into that tonight, but it was funny because somebody had posted, it was on Facebook, where they're like, well, I met all the qualifications. I don't know why they didn't call me. Because there were probably 30 other people that met the qualifications. We're not saying you couldn't do the job. You probably could. But there's a myriad of reasons of why we selected these 10. And, maybe it was just because I liked the names that day.
Probably not, but
probably not. I don't go off names too often, but we try to make sure we're not picking from the same school. It's like, well, I had 27 candidates from this South Dakota school and 2 from a different school. So let's check out these other schools and see if we can bring some new talent into South Dakota or wherever it is that we're looking to recruit from. Because we are going to go back to those same schools over and over again, but sometimes you need some fresh blood. You need some fresh
diversity of thought, for sure.
Diversity of thought. And it is, if we can keep recruiting from South Dakota State University, we're not going to get any sort of diversity.
Wow, the same way of thinking. Christina asked, going back to when we were talking about good messages, good networking messages, she's wondering if it's okay to be quite direct in the message. What would you say?
Oh, yeah. I would say get to the point, be direct, what you're looking for. Very rarely, like, again, for me, I rarely say no to somebody unless I can tell from who they are that you're going to sell to me as soon as I click that accept button. I have no power to buy anything, so you're not selling to me. You're barking up the wrong. You've done zero research on that.
Let's talk about your marketing strategy.
I help you with marketing a little bit because you're way wrong here. But I do. I think it is, be direct that, I'm looking to connect with you because I see you work at this organization and I like your message. I like what you're doing and I'd really like to join that organization. So how can I do that? And if I can help get you in touch with somebody in the organization who can make those connections. And especially if you are someone who is willing to get active on social media, I'll be honest, when someone does that on LinkedIn, I go to Twitter first to see if you're there. That's my drug of choice. I'll be honest. But I'm going to go there first and see, are you connected to anyone I know? Are you someone who's active in our HR community? Because I'm going to promote those people a little bit more because you're part of the community. You're part of making a difference, making an effort in improving who we are. Now, if you're outside of HR, not quite sure why you're contacting me, but I might be able to hook you up with someone who, can I connect you with these people or can I connect you with those people to try and get people into the right person to be able to answer their questions the way they need to. Right. It's about, being helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Very important values to live by. Christina thanks you. She did not expect that answer.
You know what? We're in such a weird world now anyway. So let's be open and direct
Yeah,
and upfront with what we want.
for sure.
We're not on LinkedIn to make friends.
Not really, no.
You know, I've made friends. I've found some great people that way, but that's not really why people are on LinkedIn. You're there to make a connection, to help find a job, help find your next step in your
100%.
career, to help somebody else make their next step in their career. So let's use it for what it's worth.
Absolutely.
I think.
I totally agree. Twitter, I feel Twitter is where you make friends.
Twitter's where I go to make friends. I've made
Yeah.
so many awesome friends through
Yes.
Twitter. I know there's a lot of
Me
people
too.
who hate Twitter, but I'm loving it.
Yeah, I love it too. And we're going to talk more about Twitter in a second. But Yvonne had a question,
Okay.
which is a good one because a lot of people wonder about this. In your opinion, is it better to apply on LinkedIn or via the careers site?
I will give the standard HR answer with
Okay.
friends. How do they want to receive an application? If they have a corporate website that has an online applicant tracking system, please apply that way. Just do. Your application isn't going to get eaten by any robots. I promise. I've been in this business for 20 years, since the birth of the ATS. Seriously, we worked on an early version at United Airlines, and that is how we track you. That is how we know that we've gotten your application. It's how we know we are putting you through how we're gonna get you to the hiring manager. It doesn't hurt to apply through LinkedIn, but it really depends on the job too. I know, like, some of our higher level positions, if someone did a connection through LinkedIn for like a manager or above, we're probably going to reach out to you and talk to you, but then we're going to direct you to our application site.
Right.
And as someone who works with the data, we really want you to fill out that application so I can count you. And I know that you've applied. And when we go back to see what's working, what's getting people through to us, what's getting people into our system, where did we find these awesome people? We can go back and find that. And, make that call for diversity too. Nobody knows what you're putting in that EEO information. They cannot see it. I promise.
Okay, that's good to know. Sorry, EEO stands for? EEO stands for?
The Equal Employment Opportunity. There's another letter there, but
okay.
So that's that private information where they're going to ask, what's your race, what's your gender, are you a veteran? And that I'm talking specifically to U.S. folks. Sorry, I forgot we're worldwide tonight.
Worldwide, yeah, that's okay.
But if they're using an applicant tracking system, the hiring manager, the recruiter, nobody sees it. Nobody can see that information. It's all getting aggregated out and put into just basic data.
Right.
There's like a handful of people that could dig in, and they're not going to, because we're asking them to pull all sorts of data. So they don't have time to dig in to figure out who said what when it comes to that identification. But it's so important for us because we want to have a diverse workforce. We want to have more women. We want to have more minority folks. We want to have more veterans working for us. And we don't know if we're succeeding unless we get those numbers. So I just encourage you. It's not to keep people out. There's much easier ways for us to keep people out.
Right.
With that,
Yeah.
I can sometimes guess based on just where you went to school. So those are, there's other things that we're doing to increase our diverse applicant pool, to increase our diversity within our organization. But that's really why we need you to apply through the ATS. It's not to make your life hell. It might feel like it. And there are some out there that do. There was one a few years ago. I was applying to the job, and I was on like 20 minutes in. And I'm
to your application?
To the application.
Oh no. Okay.
And I'm like, suddenly I'm like, why am I still doing this?
Yeah.
It should not take me 20 minutes. So
Right.
it shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes at the long end of filling out an ATS application. Most of them now will upload everything. Once you upload your application or sign in with LinkedIn, everything's there. You just have to go through and make sure it came over properly. But it shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes to do that.
Right.
Now, if you're going to go write a special cover letter, that might take a little bit longer, but it shouldn't take you that long to fill it out. So just do it.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. I actually got that exact question last week, I think, about or possibly another time, but like, am I going to be edged out? I think it was last week. Am I going to be edged out because I answered that I'm female on that? And so you're clarifying, confirming that data is anonymized. Is that a word? Anonymized. And
completely separate.
Yeah.
I've been in this business a while, so I remember paper applications and we would cut it off. So it was like at the bottom of the application, we would go through, you'd stack them all together. The old chopper.
Yeah. The
shrink thing.
Yep.
Yeah. We would chop them all off, put them in a pile, and then one of our, assistants would go through it once a week or whatever and input the data. So back then there was zero way to go back.
Oh, wow. Well, there you go. And now no one has the time to go back and check. So
we're looking at other data. We're pulling it out. So yeah, please do. It's not going to count against you whatsoever.
Very good. Thank you for confirming that. So let's talk a bit about Twitter. So we first connected on Twitter and love Twitter. So before I ask you about like how you're using Twitter a bit more in depth, we got a question from someone literally about Twitter, and it was, if you're trying to reach a decision maker about a job or a possible opportunity, and you've tried several times with no reply, is it okay to try and tweet them with courtesy and in a creative way to get their attention? What do you think?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
If they're out there, if they're active on Twitter, I'd make sure that they're active and gonna see it. And maybe, look through their timeline a little bit to kind of see
definitely
who they are, what are they, what GIF is going to get them.
GIF, yes.
If it's a GIF, if it's a meme, what's going to get their attention if you want to go that route and be creative. You don't want to insult anybody.
Right.
And, honestly, you probably should be doing some of that research on companies you're going to want to work
definitely.
For. What are you tweeting? You tweeted that from your personal profile. Okay. So, I would kind of make sure that, take a look. What are they tweeting out? Who are they connected? Maybe you have a connection through Twitter, but I don't see any issue with that. I'd probably give them a little extra credit for saying, hey, you found me on Twitter. Awesome. I'm probably pretty easy to find on Twitter. There's probably others that aren't so easy, but why not?
Nice.
Some questions.
Yeah, I love it. I find Twitter is just so easy to engage, really, and people are just more apt to engage. I don't know. It's interesting.
And it's even celebrities will engage. Yeah. You'll get. I think it was Adam Grant. We were all talking about his new book, and he started liking our tweets and retweeting our stuff, and we're like, Adam Grant is retweeting us.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's so cool.
I think, it's like the ultimate equalizer almost being on Twitter, to be able to kind of reach out to somebody and just kind of say, hey, I like what you're doing, or hey, I know you're into this or that, and just kind of making a connection. It's kind of like the bar, I guess.
Yeah, it is like the bar.
It's not as intimidating as a bar, but just kind of having that that friendliness of, we're just hanging out, we're here at a happy hour, nobody's crazy yet.
No one's crazy yet.
We're a little crazy, but
so drinking and tweeting, yay or nay?
Oh yeah.
I mean, who doesn't?
It's almost time for my annual live tweet of the 10 Commandments while having a couple of glasses of wine. So
That's something I'll have to tune into. Have you claimed a hashtag for this?
I haven't. I usually just use the 10 Commandments, which is
Okay.
super long. And usually by the end, I'm getting it messed up because that's just a super long movie. It's like 4 hours.
Oh my gosh.
So I sometimes do it in two sessions because, by the intermission, you're kind of like, I've had drank too much. I can't.
Yeah, right. 4 hours. How much wine can you get through? A lot. So with Twitter, so obviously you use it a lot in your hiring and researching job seekers. But what do you see? Like, what are the trends you're seeing in terms of Twitter being used for hiring?
Well, it's really any social media. I think it's good for that first connection. I think it's good for doing some of that research from a candidate perspective, looking into, who are these people that I'm looking to work with? What's the organization like?
Mm-hmm.
What direction do I want to go? On the other side of it, I really caution hiring managers against doing it.
Okay.
And leaving that to HR, because you need to be consistent on what you're looking for. You need to be consistent in making sure that they're not digging up stuff they shouldn't. I've had a couple of hiring managers like, well, they had pictures on Facebook of drinking. And what?
Yeah, right.
Pretty sure you have pictures of you drinking on Facebook. So, making sure that you're having that consistent. You don't want them coming up and coming back, well, I don't want to hire her because, she's trying to get pregnant and she's posting it out on
yeah,
media, which has happened to me. I had a hiring manager once, and it was actually email that they told me. I'm like, what? Okay, one, don't put it in writing.
Yeah, yikes. You just incriminated yourself.
Guess what? Guess who you get to hire now?
Yeah. Thanks for making that decision. Yeah.
You're welcome. So I think, I do, on the candidate side, go find them, go look. You have free reign on that, and you should know a little bit about who are the people you're going to be working with.
For sure.
On the hiring manager side, I do caution on it and make sure if you want that done, or if it's part of your regular procedures, make sure there's consistency in it, so that, well, Kamara, she kind of has a weird name. We might want to check her out, but I know Wendy's fine. We don't have to look at her. Just making sure you're not accidentally, doing some of that disparate treatment, disparate impact. You're not intentionally doing it, but you happen to do it because you're making these odd little choices along the way.
Yeah. That's yeah. I just cringe when I hear or when I think about the possibilities.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's some good that can come from it, but there's still that cautionary of just make sure we know what you're doing on social media. As a hiring manager, what you're doing when you're out there looking at them. Let's keep that a little down, or not, contained.
Right. Got it. We've got quite a few more questions that have come in. Murat is asking, are companies ready for remote work? What are you seeing?
And I think honestly, the organizations that took this time to look and determine what they needed to do, and are making smart decisions based on what they know, what they learned about themselves. They're not having that knee-jerk reaction of, okay, you're vaccinated, come back in. I've talked to a couple of people. They're like, we actually outgrew our space.
They have no home to go back to.
If you're going to work remote, we need you to come back in the office, clean out your desk, and then you can work remote. Someone else is getting your desk, or even maybe they're going to alternate days and you're going to desk share. So there's a lot of companies that are having those conversations right now as people are getting vaccinated, as people are feeling more comfortable to come back into an office environment. The good organizations and those they're going to rise. They're going to rise fast, in my opinion, because it's going to be very clear who said, nope, you got to come back and sit in this desk. I need you to sit in this desk. I need to know what you're doing. You had a year to figure out how to gauge productivity that didn't involve people sitting at us in a certain spot, looking at a certain looking at a certain screen. There are ways to measure productivity that are nothing to do with that.
Right.
And giving people that freedom to say, oh, I can get up from my desk. I can take a break and go run to the store or go, change out the laundry. And now I have more, I have extra time in my day. And now I'm even more excited to turn on my computer in the morning to be able to give people that freedom. And it's, I don't remember who said it, was years ago, but, we trust you enough when we hire you. We say, we believe you can do this job. And then as soon as you come in the door, we don't trust you anymore.
Yes.
We need to know what you're doing, when you're doing, how you're doing, blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, is the work getting done? What is the output of what's happening? What is, how is all of that going on? And if your productivity, and let's be sure we all know how we're measuring productivity too. That's one of my, you need to be productive. Okay. What does that mean to you? Does it mean I'm sitting at a desk staring at a computer screen? Okay, well, I can do that. I can stare at Twitter for 8 hours too, Right. So making sure your staff understand, what does that productivity mean? What am I going to get to? And so the companies that took this year and figured that out, it might have been bumpy, it might have been ugly, but those that have figured it out and said, okay, here's what we're going to do. And here's how we're going to keep you involved and keep you happy in the organization, feel connected to the organization. We're at home, we're remote right now. And, we're missing those water cooler talks. Like, not really, because now we're scheduling them. Yeah. And now they're more productive because I'm prepared for the conversation with this person.
Yes.
Even if it's just, hey, I want some brainstorm time. We're gonna put an hour in and just brainstorm on this topic, on this work that we're doing. So being able to schedule that and not have to feel like you're interrupting somebody's day. And I worked in an open office environment, which I'm not a fan of. So it's when someone goes to talk to somebody else, they're not just disturbing that one person. They're disturbing everyone around them too. And so, there's probably some conversations that are missed. There's probably some of that visibility thing that we have to think about a little bit, because, it's always, well, if you're here, people are going to know, then that you're serious, and you don't want to come in after the boss or leave before the boss, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And, that was, 18 months ago, people were still saying that.
Yeah.
But we don't need to anymore. We have technology, and not just, okay, I need you on Zoom all day, I'm going to, count your keystrokes, but we have technology that can help track what the work is and what work needs to be done. And is it getting done in a timely manner?
Right.
There's tons of tools out there that can do that. And, as long as you're not making people redo that 27 times, they won't hate you for it.
Right.
Or, pick something, and like, even if it's just an Excel spreadsheet that says, okay, I'm working on this project and I did this amount of work today. I worked on this project and I did this. Or we use Trello in my office. And so here are my 7 projects. Here's what I'm doing this week. And Perfect. I got them done. Or, you know what, I didn't get it done because we had to reschedule, or this happened, and so I had to move things around. So, my supervisors can go in and see what's going on in my projects.
Right.
It's not perfect, but it's a tool that's getting us there. And so I think there's so many of those awesome tools out there that you just got to figure out what works for your organization.
Love it. Totally agree. Wendy is asking, another Wendy, what happens when you don't have the education? This is a really good question. Yeah. What happens when you don't have the education specified in the job description or job posting, but you have the equivalent work experience?
It depends. It just does. There's different, sometimes there are regulations or qualifications that you have to have that certain education for. There's certain designations that hospitals go for, that you have to have a certain number of bachelor prepared nurses working for you. You just have to have that degree.
Right.
On the office side of things, apply anyway. If you have the equivalent experience, 9 times out of 10, that job description also says this education or equivalent experience. We might ask for a little more experience. And I could get on my soapbox about how years of experience in education don't really mean anything.
Right. Yep.
We are where we are right now. And so here's the game and here's how you can play it, type of thing. I would still apply if it's a job that you're interested in. And ladies, if you don't meet the qualifications 100%, apply anyway. I say that as the recruiter that's like, oh my God, please don't apply if you're not qualified, because then I have to kick you out and blah, blah, blah. But not always.
Right.
And honestly, the higher up the job, the entry-level jobs are a pain. We'll say that because the qualifications are minimal. The more qualifications you have, the more likely you are going to be included in that. There are some exceptions. I used to work for the state of South Dakota, and if you didn't have that exact education, you were out. That was their rules, and some companies are going to have those rules. But it does, at this point in the game, it doesn't hurt you to apply, because they might not find someone with those experience and education, and they're going to have to go back and lower it.
Got it.
So apply anyway.
Got it. There we go. You heard it here. All right. Yes. Great. So wanted to talk to you a bit about, you were on another podcast, Talent X, recently, and you were talking on that podcast about telling your story, I guess, on social media, on LinkedIn. So what's important about our story for recruiters to know, or for talent acquisition folks to know?
A lot of people, we talk about brand and they get all weird about it. Like, I'm not a thing. I'm not marketing. I'm not, but if you think about your brand as your reputation, if you switch that up, and it almost sounds old fashioned now to talk about your reputation, but that's all it is. And you are going out on social media as an individual. And when you're out there, you control your story, or you should control your story. So you should be out there telling it and not letting others be out there telling it for you, unless they're just fantastic and they can do that.
Right.
But knowing who you are and that consistency across platforms too. Yes, I shared slightly different things from Facebook to Instagram to LinkedIn to Twitter, and occasionally TikTok. Occasionally.
You're on TikTok?
I have a 10-year-old who loves it.
I'm gonna go follow you. Yeah.
But that's if you can't be consistent across that, and I find out as a recruiter, I find out as a talent acquisition professional, I'm not going to trust who you are, because who am I getting? Who's going to come into the organization at the end of the day? And I feel comfortable saying that for almost any organization. Now, the larger the organization is, the less likely that we're looking across all the profiles. Smaller organizations, they have the ability to do that, to compare, to say, oh, who are you on LinkedIn? Oh, I see you also have a Twitter profile. Oh, you also have, Facebook. So let me take a look and see what I can see. And, feel free to, if you lock some of those personal ones down, I'm not going to care. I'm looking at the Twitters and the LinkedIns of the world.
Right.
Because that's just where I am. Other people are going to spend more time on other platforms. So it's kind of a crapshoot too, of what they're going to look at, which is another reason to have that consistency in who you are.
I love that you're emphasizing the consistency rather than like making sure it's sanitized or something. Yeah. Like, just be consistent. Like, you don't want multiple versions of yourself out there. Yeah. How exhausting indeed.
And it's, the thing about it too, is because I know people get this advice. recruiters aren't going to look at you if you post about Black Lives Matter or this or that. I'm like, well, do I want to work for a company that would not consider me because I posted Black Lives Matter?
Right.
That's a decision I would have to make. On the conservative side as well, if you, I don't know what they would, if you post MAGA and I say I don't want to work with someone who is wearing a MAGA hat, do you really want to work with me? Probably not. I don't think you would last long.
Right. Right.
Now, again, I'm going to clarify, I'm not going out and doing that. But I know that there are people getting that advice yet. And so that is a personal decision that you have to make as an individual of what am I going to put out there, and knowing that there's going to be somebody that doesn't like it.
Yep.
And are you willing to have those conversations or walk away from those conversations, or even relationships with folks? I posted some Black Lives Matter things, and an uncle DM'd me, and we had a good conversation. We don't agree on some things, which we're not going to agree on everything. And I knew that going into it, but we were able to talk. We were able to have that conversation, even in a DM. So you have to know that what you put out there, you have to know somebody's going to comment, and somebody's likely not going to like it unless all you're posting is flowers. Although there's probably somebody else that's not going to like that.
Someone might have a thing against flowers, allergies or whatever.
Right. I don't like flowers. Stop posting flowers. I don't care about your flowers. Well, that's fine.
We have a few more questions that have come in. This should be a quick one. Does an ATS accept or reject contact info contained within a header? So the double click in Word, the header feature there, or the footer.
I think that's based on an ATS. I don't know any ATS that kicks out any format.
Anything.
Honestly, it will tell you. I might not be able to read it based on how it comes over. And that's really why we have the ATS parse that information into the application, because sometimes that formatting, you might have a very beautiful resume, but it's not going to come across, and I can't read it on my machine for whatever reason. So that's why it gets parsed out, or that's why we're asking you to fill out additional information. But any ATS that I'm aware of isn't going to do that. There's probably some old ones out there, and you've had it happen to you. I'm sure it's happened in the past. Again, I was there in the baby days of online applications. They were crappy. Crappy. But that was also early days of the internet.
Right.
I was around before there was the internet. So
I was too.
It's okay. A child of the 80s. We've seen it all. We've seen it all.
That's right. That's right.
Anyway,
for now. And Christina's asking, some companies have large TA and recruiting teams, so who should she network with? What's that?
I would say pick one.
Okay.
Follow, look at who's out there, take a look at what they're posting, and find one to follow. Yes, my organization has like 170 people in our talent acquisition department.
Well, there you go.
It's not worth it. You don't have time. You don't have time to network with all of us. You don't have time to connect with all of us. So find one that is posting things that you're interested in. Find one that's posting things that you like. Connect with them. Start building a relationship. Just comment on their posts. They'll start following you. And then when it comes time that you're like, hey, I'm interested in a job, they will be that person that says, oh, that's not me. Let me connect you with Nancy. Let me connect you with John. And they will help you with that role. I don't know anything about IT. Let me get you with the right person. That's
great. That's great reassurance to know that they would be willing to make that connection. So awesome. Another question about degree, like education and work. So master's degree, not getting a job, maybe need to shift, how to overcome the lack of degree.
In a new field as well as not having steady work history. Oh, okay. So that's my pet peeve with hiring managers who say, and these people that are like, oh, they haven't been working. Okay, hello, have you been paying attention for the last year?
Yeah.
No one should be saying that right now. There's not
I
a
know.
single person that should be saying that right now. But we do. We have.
Yeah.
I've heard it recently. So it's telling that story. So I would be sure that you have an updated LinkedIn profile. I would be active on LinkedIn, sharing things, showing how you're learning, showing how you are. I hate that you have to justify how you're spending your time right now.
Yeah.
But here's what I've been doing. Here's how I am, and then tailoring that cover letter to the job, to the organization. That's going to get you a better chance of getting looked at. I'm not guaranteeing anything, but it will get you a better chance of them saying, oh, okay, well, you don't have the exact right degree I'm looking for, but you've done this, this. Let's have a conversation. Because every recruiter has that story of, oh, we found this person out of the blue.
Right.
Wouldn't have expected that they would have been the right person, but hey, it worked out. We all have that story. And then we go back to the same old. But again, it comes down to what's the capacity of that recruiter to get through candidates, to get through everything else that's going on. Sometimes we have time to focus and do those special things, and sometimes we just don't.
Makes sense. Well, thank you for that. And everybody who asked the question is thanking you very much for your insights. So thank you for all of that.
Yeah.
I want to just ask you quickly about about HR social art. So you mentioned you're writing for people in Australia. How else has the podcast kind of changed your career?
Yeah, I never would have thought that, going back to, I think when I was in high school, I had a brief dusting with, oh, maybe I'll be a journalist. And that kind of, I don't quite know what happened to it. My goal when I was younger was to be some sort of writer. But it's really opened a lot of doors with attending conferences and different writing opportunities to kind of hone those skills and do some writings about different things. I mean, I'm writing about supply chain and the HR side of supply chain and how we, negotiating salary and talking to a CFO and those kind of things, which is just like, wow, this is kind of cool. I'm learning something new now. But I've also been able to take some of that and have started a podcast at my paying job. So we're doing an HR related podcast and talking about the different areas of our HR department, because
that's so cool.
We have so many people in HR, and I don't know what all those different areas do. And so getting to learn these short, they're usually around 7-10 minutes. I was hoping to make them 5, but they've just been so good. We're talking about adding a mentorship series because
awesome.
We're very big into mentorship. So let's get our C-suite folks and our executive directors to talk about their story and get that information out, because as awesome as it would be to have the CNO mentoring a CNA, that's just not going to happen.
Right.
So how do we get some of that learning and that wisdom down into it, into other people, and just kind of, so we're really focusing on those internal people and the internal podcast. There's an external one that marketing does, but this is for our people. This is for our employees. And so now I'm getting in with our learning and development department, and how do we get more of that? And I never expected to do that at work.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that would be a way to go, but it's kind of filling a need that people didn't really realize we needed. There's that hole there. And that's kind of the cool thing about my current job is I'm looking for those holes. I'm looking for those places where what can we do something cool to fill that. Ultimately, my hope is that we use it to do job advertisements. And so I am working with a specialty department in our Fargo, North Dakota area to do some recruitment podcasts.
Cool.
and it's an area I know nothing about. So I'm like, this is going to be cool. I'm going to talk with the hiring manager. I'm going to talk with people that do this job. And, how do we get people excited about it? Because this is one of those jobs where there's like 20 of them in the whole US.
Wow. Really?
So getting people excited about it. And then we can share it with other areas of, hey, you're talking to students. We'll share this link to this podcast with them. And maybe they'd be interested in going to school for this. Nice. And then we can get them in.
Get them early on.
Get them excited about some of these careers that, there's been a push on, since I'm in healthcare, there's been a push on nurses, but there's a whole slew of other people that work for healthcare that don't get that same PR because we don't have the same volume of need.
Right.
So, but if, COVID taught us anything, we need respiratory therapists. Everyone knows
you're not kidding.
Now.
Yes. Wow.
So getting people interested in some of those other areas, because there's not enough room in all the nursing schools, even to keep up with the demand. So how do we get other people in? And so those are some of the things that we're working on. And I'm excited to be able to do podcasts and share that information and start learning about video and how do I put podcasts under different videos to share things. We did a training video that way.
Oh, wow.
So we put it out as a podcast and as a training video.
Awesome.
So there's things that I never dreamed we'd go down this road. But being able to see some of those different areas and different things with human resources and how do we share that with people? How do we get it out there and demystify some of it, quite honestly?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it's really all about, right? Is demystifying. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Really one last question because we are at the top of the hour, but before I get to the last question, Wendy just wanted to say that she's really appreciating your honesty and truth and all the truth that you're sharing about recruiting. And I appreciated it as well. And I know everyone else does. Murat asked an interesting, very topical question. Do you think it's possible to be recruited in Clubhouse?
I'm still learning Clubhouse.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually going to be sitting in on a conversation tomorrow at lunchtime with some friends.
Oh, great.
And I did see somebody post, is Clubhouse just tricking us all to be on a conference call?
That's good.
That made me laugh. Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible to be recruited anywhere. I mean, just walking down the street and having to somebody seeing something. Is it probable? I don't know. I don't know unless you're looking to recruit somebody and you need them to be a competent speaker, being able to communicate well with folks. So, maybe like PR, marketing, probably some HR stuff, you could probably be recruited. Those are the ones that come immediately to mind. There's probably other careers that I'm not thinking of that it could be possible. And I don't want to. Is it probable? Maybe not. Maybe not yet. Maybe once it gets a little broader.
Yeah.
Once it's not segregated to just iPhone users.
Right. It's not a very inclusive app, is it?
And it's not. And that's one of the hesitancies I have about it. Is it is sound.
Right.
It's only sound. So someone who is deaf is excluded from that.
Right. Yep.
And so I do have some hesitancy around it. But I know people that have dived in, and I love to see what they're coming up with. I love to see the connections that are coming out of it. And any place that you can make a connection with people, it's not all bad. I think there's value there. So as they work through some of those issues to get it more inclusive, be a little more broad. I have a podcast, and so that doesn't really, translate to the deaf community either. And that's one of the things that we've kind of been talking about is how do we get translation services, transcription, not translation, transcription services, so that it is more inclusive.
Right.
And right now it's a little pricey for us to do. From a time standpoint and a money standpoint,
right.
depending on which direction we would want to go.
Yep.
So being able to finding ways to be able to do that, to just, make that medium more inclusive, I think is going to be a good thing. So hopefully Clubhouse is working on it. I know I, as a podcaster, we're working on it. So
awesome. That's so great that you're looking into that. It is very important. So we've gone over time. So I just want to be respectful of your time and just ask you finally, if people want to reach out to you or connect with you or follow you, where can they best do that?
Best way is Twitter.
Twitter.
Wendell93. I'm there. You could also find me on my blog, mydailyjourney.com. But really right now that's pointing everybody towards Twitter chats. So
got it. Perfect. So it's going to all come back to there.
It's all going to come back to Twitter. And we do a Twitter chat the second and fourth Sunday of each month at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And we talk a lot of HR adjacent topics, not necessarily HR focused. So if you want to join us, we hope you'll be there. We welcome lurkers and participants.
Lurkers and participants. That's great. And I've linked to all of Wendy's social in the description on YouTube. And Wendy is tagged on the LinkedIn post for this live. So you can find her there. So thank you so much, Wendy, for sharing so much fantastic advice and insights into the recruiting and talent acquisition process. Hugely valuable for everybody. And I really appreciate your time. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everyone. And you take care. Have a good night.